Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. This is an amazing turnout. So my name's Sommer Croft, I work in NHS Digital and I've worked for the NHS for about 13 years now. I'm probably the least technical person that's going to be on this screen, maybe even the least technical person in this room. But for me that means that I still really appreciate people's technical skill set and capabilities, and I just bring something different, I think, to the projects that I work on. So as a project manager and program manager within the NHS, and as a project manager in general, I think one of the things that we always look at is whether or not failure is inevitable. We plan so much to look at the risks that could impact on a project and how we mitigate them. Failure is kind of never not an option for project managers. We try to plan so much so that we can avoid failure, to mitigate against it, or to accept that risk if that's the case. But it's something that's really at the forefront of our mind all the time. So in kind of thinking about that, for me, it's how we react to failure, how we react to that risk, and how we then how that then plays out within a project. So for me, I think one of the biggest issues that I come up against around failure is kind of a blame culture. It's something that I try and tackle quite a lot within my programs and my projects. Really try to create a no-blame culture right across the piece, and everybody can do that within the team that they're working in. It's not nice to be blamed. I've been there. I've been blamed for something that went wrong that really wasn't my fault, and it was a really, really horrible situation to be in, if I'm being really honest. And I think sort of learning from that, it's about taking that failure, taking that issue that's happened, and actually pulling your team together, pulling everyone together that's working on it, and really kind of driving forward to make a difference and make a change. So the big thing that I take from that is, within my projects, is I always create a no-blame environment. We have things like retrospectives every 2 weeks where we talk about what's gone wrong, what's gone really well, how we can take those things that have gone well and drive them forwards within our projects, but also look at what's gone wrong, what's the root cause of it, and then how we can change that, and then really embrace that and somebody take responsibility for that and drive that forwards within the project as well. It's really, really key, because having a culture where someone is blamed for something going wrong means that nobody ever admits to something, and then also nobody actually tries something new. Nobody wants to take a risk, and actually sometimes taking a risk can be one of the best things that happens for your project. So I think actually cultivating that environment, if you're a leader or even if you're a team member, is a really, real key aim that you should be aiming for within your teams. So this is the team that I work on. These are amazing, amazing people. As you can see, it's a real mix of men and women, which is probably the first time in the last 5 years I've actually come up against where it's not predominantly men that I've been working with. I worked on a program called the Spine program, and I think there were about 100 people on the team, and of that there were about 6 women. This new program that I'm working on within GPIT Futures is a real mix, and it's nice. So one thing that I would say is women are fantastic at building up a network. Men are as well, but women are really, really good at building a network. And one thing I'd really push for is to really understand what your colleagues and your friends' key skill set is, what they can really bring out for you. I got in a real scrape several years ago where I had to send an email out. It sounds really, really minor, but I had to send an email out to 290,000 people about about something that was happening within the NHS, and it was 290,000 members of the public. And I'd been told by one of the leading organisations within government that I had to send it out by a certain point. We were all good to go. It was absolutely fine. However, the comms team that I was working with told me that, oh, actually, the bolt-on that you need to send this email out, because it had to be a secure email, actually, I know we're supposed to send it out by the end of this week, but it's going to cost £4,000 and it's going to take 4 weeks for us to actually procure it. Like, and then I remembered that I'd worked with a guy who was fantastic at coding. Just thought, I'll just go and talk to him, see if this is something that he can help me out with, see if he can do it in a secure way that's going to meet sort of like all the security parameters that were kind of put around it. And it literally took him 15 minutes. So it really is about remembering sort of how your friends and your colleagues can help you, because these are the people who are going to get you out of your scrapes. These are the people who are going to support you in when things do fail and things go wrong. And believe me, working in the NHS, when things fail, they fail bad. And the technology that that I'm developing, that my colleagues are developing, can potentially have an impact on people's lives. So when we talk about risks and failures, it really can be quite significant that what we're looking at. But then it can also be awesome as well, so it's fine. So one of the things that I'm really keen on is actually embracing failure, because, my God, it's never going to last more than a few months. Going through a really, and it is, when failure happens, believe me, it is not a nice experience. But it happens and you learn from it. It's not going to last forever. Take it as an opportunity that you can actually learn from, because you really, really can learn from these experiences and make sure that whatever happens isn't going to happen again. Obviously, there are things that will happen that you can never ever plan for, that will be completely out of your control, but it's how you actually react to them that can actually make them, okay, maybe not successful, but not as bad as actually that you might think they are in the first instance. So some of my best experiences, I think, have happened when a project has failed or kind of been on the cusp of failure. And it's really been about how me and my team have kind of really pulled together to make a difference, to make sure that, okay, we know it's going to fail potentially, but what can we do to minimize that failure or to prevent it from happening? And I've actually had some really fantastic experiences with my team and with my suppliers in actually resolving those issues as they're actually happening, to make sure that we can minimize that failure so that it's the smallest impact as possible. So it might not feel like a great experience when you're going through it at the time, but, you know, it makes great fodder for interviews, really, when you're going for that promotion. I think one thing when I talk about failure within my projects is I always refer to post-it notes. So post-it notes were actually, a guy was trying to create a new glue, and it was considered a failure. They were going to throw it away. And actually, when the team started working with it, they realized that it stuck to the wall and didn't peel off and didn't just fall off, but you could peel it off and stick it back on again. And I refer to this because we work in Agile, and oh my God, the entire office is covered in post-it notes. So I think the NHS maybe prop up the post-it note industry, along with the DWP, which I've been to their offices, and that's exactly the same as well. So actually, that was a huge success for them, which came out of a failure. So I think, again, it's just kind of how you actually look at failure. Oh no, it's not working. So this is a video that I actually got off of LinkedIn, and it shows this very bizarre truck carrying a caravan or a shed or something over this really narrow bridge. So apologies, the video's not working. But for me, it's like, I think that some people's perception of failure is very different to others. So one project that I will talk about is a project called Healthspace within the NHS. So Healthspace was deemed a failure because it didn't work, it didn't meet user need. We'd spent quite a lot of money and quite a lot of time in developing Healthspace. And I was brought in as the program manager to actually shut down the program and do a lessons learned and an end report and everything to make sure that it was closed down properly. And I spoke to Justine Brightwell. If you ever meet her, she's an absolutely inspirational leader within the NHS. And she was the programme manager within Healthspace when she was trying to get it off the ground. She considered Healthspace as a failure because she couldn't get it off the ground. She tried and tried. And for her, she personally felt that she wasn't able to deliver what was intended. When I went in to do the lessons learned on Healthspace, I actually looked at it very, very differently. Healthspace was very, very much ahead of its time. The problem with it was that it couldn't meet user need because the technology was so far behind within the NHS. So actually what users needed in order for them to be able to do what was necessary couldn't be met because the technology just wasn't there. So actually, for me, Healthspace was a very visionary program which just couldn't be met through technology constraints. So it was just a real different perception around what failure actually means. Because for me, they'd tried something, they'd really tried to meet those user needs, they'd gone out there, yeah, fair enough, a few things they probably could have done a little bit differently, but ultimately they'd tried. And I think that one of the main issues is that there's a real kind of problem in actually being perceived as failure just because you've tried to do something and not been successful. Surely, as my last slide says, oh, now my video works. You can watch this video because it's amazing. So somebody would probably stand at this point and say, oh my God, you're going to fail. There's no way that you guys are going to get over this bridge. But the man in the van is like, no, oh no, I'm going to do it. Oh yes, I can see it. I've weighed up the pros and cons. I know what's going to happen. And voila, he did it. So again, it's that perception. There would have been two different personalities weighing up about whether or not that was going to be failure or if it was actually a calculated risk that they could actually get away with it. So I think kind of the point of where I work at the moment is I really try and encourage my team. So I've got 3 teams within the NHS. It's always about try something. If it doesn't work, it's really not the end of the world. Surely it's worse to actually try something and fail at it than never actually try it at all. Because the worst thing is not meeting that user need, never just saying, oh, it's impossible. Well, how do we know unless we try it? And I think this is something that me and my teams really live by. So yeah, if you go away with anything, please try something. Don't be scared of failure. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, you might get fired, which really could, or a patient could die. But weigh up those risks and really embrace it and try and think about whether it is a calculated risk or if it is a failure. But so that's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone.